Hey, what's up, Spencer? My name is everybody, and welcome back to my channel. Flight 29 Down is a show that aired on Discovery Kids from 2005 to 2007 and follows 10 kids and 1 adult as their plane crash lands on a deserted island and they have to fight for survival. If you think that this concept sounds pretty familiar, you would be right. There was a very well-known show about a group of people who crash landed on an island and had to survive there for several seasons, and that show was called Gilligan's Island. I think there might have been another show that was really popular and kind of followed along the same plot points, but I can't remember what the name of it now. The name is just lost to me. To say that Flight 29 Down is the PG version of Lost is a bit of an understatement. It's very clear that Flight 29 Down is a ripoff from Lost in the fact that it premiered only 1 year after Lost started, and many of the characters on this show are clearly just child version of Lost characters. When it comes to story, however, things do start to get pretty different. Flight 29 Down had 30 20-minute episodes across 3 seasons, while Lost episodes were at least twice as long, and there's at least 90 more of them. Because of that, Flight 29 Down doesn't really get into any really big, deep mysteries on the island or have any kind of like magical connotations to it. It really just focuses on these teenagers as they fight for survival. Now, I did want to see what people from this time period were saying about this show because, yeah, I was alive in this time, and yeah, I was watching this show when I was about it, but I was also 11, and I thought that the voice acting from Code Lyoko was good, so my opinions weren't really all that developed at this time.
Who needs them? There are lots of other boys.
Oh, yeah? What are you waiting for then? Try and find one.
So I went out and I found this article from a website called DVDtalk.com that was posted in 2007 by a guy named Aaron. I could only read some of his review because the website is set up like this, but I was able to see the part where he said that the best acting was done by Corbin Bleu and Haley Hirsch, while the rest of it felt pretty forced, and I would have to agree. The acting isn't really the best, and you can really feel that in episode 1. It is very clear that a lot of the actors are trying to figure out who their character is and how exactly to deliver lines. As the show goes on and the actors start to feel more comfortable with their characters, it does get better, but yeah, the acting isn't really the best. Before we get into the plot of the show, I do want to go through who the characters are so that you have kind of an idea of what we're working with here. We're going to start off with my boy, Corbin Bleu, who we have had on this channel before in my video about Jump In. Please go and check that one out. Corbin plays Nathan, who is a Boy Scout, lost class president by 10 votes, and is weirdly racist to a white character on the show, but we'll get into that later. He's very clearly supposed to be the Jack of this show, and our next character, Daly, is very clearly supposed to be Kate. Daly is the person who won class president, so she and Nathan are frequently competing and they're always arguing with each other, and she is a very bossy person and likes to tell everybody what to do, which is what bossy means, but yeah, anyway, that's the person that she is. Lex is the only 10-year-old on this flight and is Daly's younger stepbrother. He is incredibly smart, and they never explain what this small child is doing here on this high school field trip. Like, it's not like he's so smart that he's happened to jump up a few grades and is in this class, because they established that Lex does not even go to their school. He's just there for some reason. I guess the reason why he's there is because they needed some sort of smart character in order to throw out a bunch of smart people things so that they could continue to survive on the island. But they easily could have just had like a smart 16-year-old character, or they could have like done something to say why a 10-year-old is traveling to Guam with a bunch of like high school juniors? Why is that happening? They also don't really ever explain how Lex knows the things that he knows. Like, why is he so smart in all of this stuff? And it gets to the point that several other characters are like, hey man, how do you know this shit?
This is how the Polynesians do it. Wrap the shirt around your feet and use it to grip the tree. Then you can shinny up with your arms.
How do you know these things?
It's Abby. She's dehydrated and unconscious.
I'll cool off some clean water. You get t-shirts we can soak to cool her down.
Yeah. Right. How does he know so much?
And of course, he's always just like, it doesn't matter. Writers didn't give me a reason, so like, whatever, we'll just gloss over it. Eric is the boon of the cast, and he is very lazy, always talking about survival of the fittest, because he doesn't want other people to be telling him what to do. He kind of just wants to laze around all day until he can get up and go and get whatever it is that he needs. And honestly, outside of this being a TV show for kids, I do not understand how he survived the entire time, because he doesn't do anything. And Taylor is the Shannon of the group, where she is the rich bitch Barbie stereotype. You know, she's blonde, she's pretty, she only cares about her looks. And low-key, she's one of my favorite characters, but only because she is the only character that actually kind of grows and changes throughout the show. She does become a better person, while everybody else kind of just stays in their character archetype the entire time. Melissa is the Claire of the group, I guess. I haven't watched Lost in a little while, so I'm trying to remember what the characters were like on Lost to see how they compare to these ones. But yeah, Melissa is very passive. She really kind of does whatever other people tell her to. And she's also very whiny. And it's very annoying to listen to her talk, because everything just comes out in this complaining, whining tone. Jackson is definitely the Charlie of the group, where he is mysterious, he's unknown, he's the bad boy, he has a backstory that we don't really know anything about, and he's really different from everybody else. And he is high-key my favorite, because he is really chill and he doesn't get sucked into all of the stupid teenage drama that everybody else does. He seems really solid and knows what they're trying to work towards and continues to move towards that, as opposed to being like, ew, you like this person? I can't believe it, but I thought that you liked me. Who else do we have left? Abby. Abby is a vegan, but she very quickly gives that up in the pursuit of living on an island where there is very little to eat. And then we also have Ian, Jory, and Captain Russell. And Captain Russell is kind of a dick, actually.
Call the other plane with the rest of the group. Or call the airport at Palau, or call the Navy.
Maybe I can just tune into the Yankees game while I'm at it.
So yeah, those are the 11 characters that we are working with. So with that, let us jump into the plot. And jump in we will do, because already the plane is getting hit by lightning and we are falling from the sky. Because this is a kid's show, the pilot is able to safely land the plane on the beach and nobody is hurt. But for some reason, Eric and Taylor are acting as though this is just a cruise excursion and they're gonna be getting back on the ship in a few hours.
Anyone get hurt? Nope.
But we crashed.
Yeah, the trip's over. We're gonna get yanked out of here in no time. Might as well have fun.
Right. I mean, it's not like we're gonna be here long.
A few people are taking the situation more seriously. So Captain Russell, Abby, Ian, and Jory decide to all gather some supplies together and go hike out into the jungle, because they want to see if there happens to be any other people living on the island, or if there is any way that they can get rescued. So they head off into the jungle, and we will not see these characters again until episode 29 out of 30. Yeah, we're only on episode 1 and we're already down 4 characters. We can't kill them, so we just sent them off into the jungle where we will not hear from them until right before we get rescued. At this point, the kids in the group are noticing that the tide is coming in, and with the tide, there is a possibility that their plane could be washed out to sea, taking all of their supplies and the radio and everything that is in there. So, working together, the kids are able to pull the plane further up the beach, and they have one success to end their first day on the island with. Day 2, and they need to start figuring out, food, water, fire, shelter, all of that type of stuff. They also need to elect a leader so that they won't fall into chaos and will be able to have somebody to manage everything that's going on. And obviously, both Nathan and Daly want to be the leader, and they cannot stop themselves from arguing constantly over who should be the leader. Daly says that since she is already the class president, that obviously she should be the leader, and Nathan says that since he only lost by 10 votes, and because he has Boy Scout training, then that means that he should lead. And this doesn't resolve right away, so they decide to go off looking for food and water and any supplies that they might need. And while out, Daly gets covered in leeches just by sitting on some damp grass, and I don't really know how leeches work, but it feels like that's not how it works. I'm pretty sure that you need to be actually in some body of water, not just walking through some damp grass. But honestly, I don't really know enough about leeches to argue with it. So sure, whatever, man. Lex comes to the conclusion that the only way that they can get these leeches off of Daly's leg is by burning them off with fire. But nobody has made any fire yet, so they are in dire straits, except for the fact that she could just wait and they would fall off on their own. But Jackson comes in clutch, and it turns out that he has a lighter. I'm not really sure how Jackson was able to sneak a whole lighter onto a plane only 4 years after 9/11, but okay, sure, fine. I mean, I guess it makes sense because they did bring a whole bunch of camping gear with them because they were going on what were they doing again? My notes say eco camping trip to Micronesia, but that can't be right, can it?
We all worked for a year washing cars and running raffles and begging our parents to raise enough money for this amazing school trip. It was an eco camping adventure to Micronesia.
Oh, well, I guess that it is. Micronesia. Micronesia? Is that even a real place? That doesn't sound like a real place. What? Where else did they go? Smallville? Minneapolis? That sounds like such a oh, well, would you look at that? It is a real place. So seeing as Jackson came through with the lighter and he doesn't argue over dumbass shit like Daly and Nathan does, he ends up getting elected to the point of leader. Even though he's the new kid at the school, nobody really knows him, nobody's friends with him, he's kind of the outcast. It seems like in this situation, he's one of the only people who has his head on straight. So everybody votes and says that Jackson should be the person to kind of delegate everything. Day 3. Nathan wants to figure out their water situation, so he decides to build something called a solar still, which is when you fill a hole with a whole bunch of plant material and then cover it with a tarp and weigh it down in a way that makes it so that all of the water will be collected and then drip into this small cup.
It's a solar still. The heat from the sun, it creates vapors that form out of the cooler air below. And then the vapor sticks to the outside of the funnel and forms water that drips down and collects in the cup underneath.
Honestly, it's something that takes a really long time and doesn't produce a lot of water out of it, but it is some form of water. So thank goodness Nathan is out there putting in all of this work and doing his best to, what's that? Daly built a well? Oh yeah, that's way better than a solar still. Never mind. Sorry, Nathan, your plan sucks. So while Daly and Nathan are figuring out the whole entire water situation, Jackson is doing his best to find some food in the form of fishing, but he is not very good at it. He's trying to do the whole spear stabby thing, but he keeps on missing until he gets some help from a mysterious person.
Lose a spear, a friend.
They have left him fishing hooks and give him some tips on fishing. And oh boy, these fishing hooks are made out of earrings. I wonder who could have possibly left this stuff for Jackson. It's Taylor. Who else is it gonna be? It's earrings. And who is the pretty girl who has all the earrings? It's Taylor. It turns out that Taylor actually used to go fishing a whole bunch with her dad, so she has all sorts of fishing experience, but she doesn't want to give up her rich bitch persona and make it seem like she knows how to fish. So for some reason, Jackson just lets her continue in this game of pretending that she doesn't know what they're only trying to survive here, you know? They only have like 1 day's worth of food left, and they could very realistically starve to death. But yeah, Taylor's image is way more important than that. We better make it so that she seems like a dumb girl forever. Day 4. Nathan feels so inadequate over his stupid solar still idea that he decides that he's going to come up with some way to get them rescued for the island, which translates somehow into him playing with a flare gun to the point that it goes off, almost kills Eric, and destroys their emergency kite.
You don't think that I'll around like that? Miserable. I thought you were in a
Great job, man. A+. Jackson is way chiller than I would have been in this situation, and he's like, hey man, it's fine. Just stop trying so hard.
It's okay, it's done, you know? Nobody got hurt. Just, stop trying so hard. Okay.
Jackson, he almost killed somebody. How are you so calm? I don't understand. I would be having a meltdown. Day 5, and this is my favorite episode. Going into the show, this is the only part of the show that I remembered, and this is the day in which we get to see Corbin Bleu wearing a skirt. Nathan accidentally wears wet shorts for a little bit too long and gives himself irritation, you know, in his personal area, and the only way for him to find relief is to air everything out in the form of wearing a skirt. And oh boy, look at how happy he is to be wearing this skirt. Look at how cute he is in this. I wish that we had more of this show where we saw Nathan in skirts.
Come on! We're so not keeping that!
Just a bit longer.
I mean, clearly he likes wearing it. Why couldn't we do it? Food is still an issue because they do have rations, but obviously it is going to run out at some point in the near future. But thankfully, Lex has found some mussels in the water, but unthankfully, Eric turns out to be allergic to them. They do happen to have an extremely robust first aid kit, and they are able to give Eric an EpiPen and then some Benadryl, and he recovers fairly quickly from this situation, even though when you have an allergic reaction, you are supposed to go to the hospital and they need to continue giving you medication, but they do have Benadryl, so I guess it's fine, but like, oh, thank God we saved Eric, because man, we wouldn't be able to live without him. He's been contributing so much to the camp so far. Where would we be if we didn't have him anymore? Day 6, they've been doing this thing where they've been keeping these video diaries where everybody can talk to the camera about their deepest, darkest feelings about being on the island. There's no way that that can go wrong, right? And because Taylor is upset that Melissa accidentally ruined one of her shirts, she decides to get revenge by getting her hands on Melissa's tape, hooking it up to the plane speakers, and blasting to everybody that Melissa has a crush on Jackson.
I guess it's obvious I like him. Tony! But I'd never tell him. No way, that would make things too
I can't.
weird.
They've got the camera.
But when we get off this plane, I'm gonna let him know how I feel.
Melissa is so distraught by this turn of events that she runs off into the jungle and falls down a cliff. Taylor feels a little guilty about it, follows Melissa into the jungle, and then also falls down a cliff. They are rescued eventually, and this is where the show starts to really show how flimsy the writing is, because they really do the stereotypical thing of a character being like, Melissa, are you okay? And then she thinks back. She has a whole flashback of the past 15 minutes of episode that we just watched, and then she goes, yeah, I am now.
Are you okay?
Yeah, I am now.
Girl, fuck off. How more basic can this writing get? Oh, also, Nathan and Daly capture a pig, but they don't end up killing it. They just let it go because they feel bad for it. Weaklings! It's almost been a week on this island. I can't believe you're not willing to take a life yet. Day 7. Nathan and Daly follow Jackson into the woods because apparently he's been disappearing for hours every day. They discover that Jackson has been building a raft, and they decide to point and laugh at him. And obviously Jackson sees them because look at them. They're not even trying to hide. I don't know why, but Daly and Nathan like absolutely shit on Jackson's raft. Like, so hard.
You can't be serious. I mean, come on, a raft? What do you know about building a boat?
Really? I mean, you don't think anybody's gonna sail that thing, do you?
Don't worry, this will sink before he gets deep enough to drown. We could use it for firewood.
Yeah.
Jackson gets reasonably upset that they're mocking his raft, and this is when Nathan gets really weird because he starts saying stuff that would usually be saved for racist characters. You know, he's saying, oh, we can't trust Jackson because he's from the wrong side of the tracks. We don't know anything about him. He's different, and we can't trust anybody who's different from us.
I thought he was gonna snap. I don't know anything about the guy.
I think he comes from a nasty part of downtown.
I heard that too. What's he doing at our school anyway?
I heard he moved in with a foster family.
I wonder if they're scared of him too. You know, he comes from a totally different world than us. You never know what a guy like that might do. Gotta watch our backs.
I don't know if Discovery Kids was trying to like operate in this colorblind world or if they truly just didn't consider the implications of having a black kid saying this stuff. But hey, it doesn't matter because Lex set up an obstacle course and whoever loses has to be the other people's slaves. This was made in 2005. 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 They run the obstacle course, and even though Jackson gives Nathan a head start, Nathan still loses to Jackson, which means that Nathan has to be Jackson's servant. Servant. We're gonna go with servant because that is slightly less problematic, although barely. This was made in 2005. 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 Jackson has Nathan and Daly help him finish the raft, which turns out isn't really a raft. It's a birthday present for Lex because it's his birthday and Daly, being the bestest big sister ever, has completely forgotten. Now, this raft thing is actually a really good idea because it isn't made for anybody to go out on. It's made for them to send out on the currents. And it says that Flight 29 down, they're still alive in order to try and give people kind of like a hint of where they may be and to let people know that they are still alive and they need to be looked for. Honestly, this is only the one like really good idea that they have. Everything else is like really bare bones basic stuff. This is the only one good idea that they have to try and help them get off the island. Day 8, people hike into the jungle to do some fruit gathering because they have found that there are bananas and coconuts and guavas and all sorts of stuff growing on the island that they can harvest. And while they are out in the jungle, they come across a note that is tied on the tree. It says help on it, and they get really excited because this could mean that there are other people on the island.
I thought you said no one's been out this far.
They haven't.
Then what's that?
It's proof. We're not alone.
It turns out that this note wasn't left by other people on the island. It was actually left by one of the 4 people who had headed into the jungle before, and they end up finding Abby. Remember when I said that we weren't gonna see those people again until episode 29? Well, I kind of lied. Just a little bit. You know, like when your parents say that Santa's real or that they're proud of you. Abby is unconscious, so they carry her back to camp. And when she wakes up, she reveals that she had been separated from the rest of the group by a random flash flood that happened. And then she reveals that she is so trauma bonded to those 3 other people that she was traveling with that she can't stay here at camp. And she runs away and heads back out into the jungle to try and find them. So we don't see her again for quite a while.
But you know what? Something good came out of it. I think when you go through a nightmare like that, it brings people closer together. I mean, I've known Ian and Joey forever, but after that, we got this incredible bond. It's like they're a part of me. I hate being here without them.
Day 10, somebody has stolen all of the video diary tapes. And because Lex ends up being the only person who didn't have an alibi at the time that they were stolen, they end up putting him on trial to see what they should do about the fact that he took the tapes. Lex does eventually confess to the crime, and he reveals that he knows that Jackson has a secret on the tape, and because other people have not been the best with tapes, you know, Taylor was watching other people's tapes, Eric ends up watching other people's tapes, he decided to take all of the tapes because he didn't want Jackson's secret getting out and causing harm to the group. But of course, because the group hears that somebody has a secret that they're hiding, they have like a whole entire meltdown. They're like, oh my God, what if this throws us into jeopardy? We desperately need to know. So Jackson acquiesces and agrees to allow people to see what his secret diary has been saying. And in his secret diary, Jackson reveals that he's actually not super keen on getting rescued from the island because he got into some trouble right before the trip happened. And when he heads back, there is a very real possibility that he could be going to jail.
Truth is, I'm in no hurry to get rescued. They won't let me see my mom. The foster home they put me in is fine, but it's no home. The school they got me going to is full of rich little spoiled kids. And after that guy got hurt the night before we left, I can guarantee that they're gonna throw me back in juvie hall.
This throws everybody in an uproar because now they're like, oh my God, we let like a felon lead us. He's apparently supposed to be going to jail and we don't know anything about this guy and he's supposed to be the person keeping us alive. Oh, how horrible. Ah! Personally, I don't give a shit about anything that happened off the island. That stuff does not matter right now. Who cares? A storm is rolling in at this point, and there are a lot of storms in season 1. This is the 3rd one to happen in 10 days. We've only been on the island for 10 days, and this is the 3rd one that we are encountering. Lex has been trying to get the radio on the plane to work, and of course, now it slightly does start, but it's raining so heavy and everything is falling apart. So Nathan decides to sacrifice himself to try and send out an SOS message and almost gets struck by lightning in the process.
This is PPA Charter 22004. Out in distress.
Hello? We need help. Are you there? Mayday!
Because Jackson knows that nobody wants him around now that they know his secret, he decides to run away. But Eric feels really bad about the fact that it's kind of his fault that this secret got out. So he goes out, gets Jackson, and brings him back to camp. While Jackson is talking to Melissa, he reveals the situation that has led it so that he would be in trouble. He doesn't have a very good home life. It seems like he's been bounced around from foster home to foster home. And when he first got on this trip, he was very excited about it. So he went back to his old neighborhood to tell them and be like, hey guys, look, I'm finally starting to make it. I'm finally starting to have something good happen to me. But unfortunately, the people in his neighborhood took what he was saying to be bragging, as though he's better than them now. Like he got out and all of them are stuck there. And so they were not happy. And Jackson's friend stood up for him, which resulted in his friend getting stabbed.
I went home to my own neighborhood to tell them about this amazing adventure to the South Seas I was going on. You know, I just wanted them to know that I was doing something worthwhile for a change. They said that I changed. That I was throwing in their faces that suddenly I was better than them. One guy stood up to me. He got shoved, and a fight broke out. I tried to break it up, but someone pulled a knife and he got hurt. Perfect. And now the cops are after me. I was there. I wasn't supposed to be. Someone got hurt. That's right.
And even though Jackson didn't have anything to do with it, I assume that the friend survived the stabbing. This is a kid show, so I assume that he lived. This is still kind of dark for what this show has done so far. This is the darkest that we've gotten. But because Jackson was there, this is considered a third strike for him. And he doesn't know what's going to happen when he gets back, but he knows that there's going to be some sort of punishment. He's probably going to end up going to juvie. When the storm is finally over, the kids emerge from their tent to find that the plane has been washed out into sea, is completely gone, and this is where season 1 ends. Season 2 starts off right where season 1 ended, and it kind of immediately gets a little bit darker, you know, kind of riding off of the whole stabbing tones that we just got, in the fact that Taylor is so traumatized by the storm and by losing their plane that she ends up going completely catatonic. She cannot talk to anybody, doesn't respond to anything until the end of the episode when Eric accidentally crushes his own hut that he was building, and she bursts out into laughter and she's kind of starting to readjust. Jackson resigns as group leader because he knows that people are just going to be questioning him too much and he is done with it, and Daly ends up taking over. While Lex shows that he has been building a garden that somehow, even though we've only been here for 11 days and have gone through 3 whole storms, has sprouts on it and is starting to grow. Quite a few people are not happy about the garden because it has an implication that they are going to be there for a while. They are not going to be able to harvest any food from this garden for a few weeks to a few months, and quite a few people are upset over the fact that this feels like they're starting to plan on being there for a while.
All right, so the good news is we'll have a decent food supply in a couple of months.
Bad news is we might be here to eat it.
I think that it's smart for them to be building a garden. They should be doing all sorts of stuff to ensure their survival. They keep on doing this thing where they're going back and forth, where they don't want to do anything that is like too permanent, because then that feels like it's going to somehow, like, I don't know, with karma, make it so that they'll be on the island for longer, but they're also not really doing anything to try and get off the island. They're just constantly arguing over things. They only want temporary stuff, but they're also not taking any like active roles to try and get off the island or like signal anybody for help. So they're just like constantly in this stagnant place. They're just arguing over stupid stuff. It's just so dumb. On day 12, Eric comes across a ammo box that he can't open, and they all dream of these ridiculous things that they could find in the ammo box. And even though it's all silly, the thing that I like is that they all agree that there needs to be toilet paper in there. They're all hoping that they at least got some toilet paper. And when they do finally get the box open, they find that it is full of World War II memorials because that is the last time that anybody has been on this island. Day 13, they decide that they are going to build a shelter because currently 7 people are sleeping in one tent. And obviously that's getting really crowded. People don't like it. They want to expand a little bit. So they decide to build a shelter for them to sleep in. While this is happening, Nathan is trying to come up with a way to talk to Daly about the fact that he has a crush on her. And because Melissa remembers what it was like when her feelings were just thrown out there, she's very tactful and blurts out Nathan's secret to the entire group.
Is there something we should know?
Yeah, what does the story keep on changing?
Maybe it's you and Nathan that are trying to take over.
Stop! I was only trying to keep from saying that Nathan is in love with Daly.
A+, great job. I love it. Day 14, Eric breaks the lighter and purposefully puts out the fire because his train of thought is that he has to boil water for safe drinking. That is his job. But if there is no fire, then there is no job for him to do. And remember, Eric's only character trait is that he's lazy and wants to be lazy and do lazy stuff. His punishment for essentially making it so that they're all going to die is just that he has to get a lizard out of their tent because lizards scary? I'm just kidding. Monitor lizards can be scary. Komodo dragons are super dangerous. If they bite you, you will die. I know that this isn't a Komodo dragon, but you know where I'm going with this. Day 15.
Day 15! Give it up for Day 15!
Nathan and Eric are walking along the beach when they come across the plane. It has been washed up further along down the beach, and they are so excited about it, they start crawling all over it, and Nathan slips and accidentally gets his foot stuck under the plane. The tide is coming in, and Nathan nearly drowns because of it, but thankfully everybody else comes back just in time, and they are able to shift the plane off of Nathan, and he's pulled out with just a minor leg injury, because remember, this is a kid's show. Nobody's going to actually die or get hurt in any severe manner, just minorly, and then immediately get better. Also, Eric fixed the lighter. Great job, Eric. You did one thing in the entire 2 weeks that you've been here, except you broke the lighter in the first place. So I guess technically that's net 0 for you. Day 16, and remember how we fixed the lighter? Yeah, well, it doesn't matter because Taylor used up all of the lighter fluid. So now we don't have any more light. I don't know why we decided to fix it, if we were immediately going to get rid of it again, but yeah, we're in trouble now, but it's okay because they already have a fire going. All they have to do is make sure to continue. What? They let the fire go out instead of having someone continuously monitor it? Great. Cool. Great. Of course you did. I mean, it would only make more sense to continuously feed the fire and have somebody make sure that it's always going as opposed to like starting one every single day. But like, you do you. This is your survival thing. I'm not surviving on this island. So like, yeah, whatever. Taylor does eventually end up figuring out how to create fire in the old-fashioned way, and through the amazing process of voting that they've somehow just discovered, they decide to move the plane further up the beach so that they don't have to worry about it getting washed out into the ocean again. Day 17, these kids are so excited over the concept of voting. And hey, if you want to give yourself alcohol poisoning, you can take a shot every time somebody says the word democracy.
Democracy?
Democracy. A democracy can...
Democracy!
For real, you would think that Democracy is the name of Chappell Roan's new album with the way that these kids won't shut up about it. Some supplies have been going missing, and Lex ends up finding them in the woods. And it turns out that Eric has been hoarding these supplies because he desperately wants to get off the island so bad, except he doesn't really have any sort of plan about how to do that beyond gather supplies. So he kind of just ends up putting everything back because what is he going to do with them? Day 18 is Chilloween, which is a holiday that Taylor came up with to try and like reduce stress and make everybody feel happy about the fact that they've been on the island for almost 3 weeks now. And that's kind of it. Let's move on. Day 19, Jackson gets super sick right away. And I at first thought that it might be appendicitis, but that's something that requires surgery, so of course it's not going to be that. Instead, it's going to be Giardia. Am I pronouncing that right? I hope that I am. So this is not an infection, but a parasite that you can get from drinking bad water. And seeing as the fire went out, I don't know, like 4 days ago now, apparently Jackson was drinking some bad water because they didn't have enough boiled water to go around. Melissa feels incredibly guilty about this entire turn of events because it turns out that originally Jackson had been too poor to come on this trip, and Melissa advocated for using some of their extra funds to be able to pay for Jackson's way so that he would be able to come on the trip and wouldn't have to worry about any sort of cost. So seeing as she was the one who was like, no, Jackson should come, Jackson should come, Jackson should come, she feels like super bad about the fact that now there is a very real possibility that Jackson could shit himself to death. I'm not kidding. That's what Giardia does. It makes you like shit and throw up so much that you become severely dehydrated and you can die from dehydration. So that's what they're worried about. But you don't have to be too worried because they go in their extremely thick first aid kit and they somehow have the exact medication that Jackson needs in order to get over this.
Everything in the manual points to this being a bad case of Giardia, and this is the suggested treatment.
And Jackson gets better literally within like 24 hours. Google says that it takes weeks to get over this, but in this show, everything lasts for maybe 24 hours and that's it. So he's good now. Oh, also, Lex and Eric create their own fire starter. So now they have a couple of ways to start fire. Whoopee! Day 20, people are starting to get a little bit tired of waiting for rescue, so they decide to build a raft. Well, it would be more accurate to say that Eric throws a fit over building a raft, and everybody eventually agrees with him just to get him to shut up about it. They then proceed to build an entire raft in the span of a day. Everything works so quickly in this show. Day 21, they decide to test the current. They don't want to fully go out on the raft yet. They want to see how the current is going because their theory is if this is a westward current, they can get on it and sail west and eventually they will hit Asia. Seems like a pretty good plan, I guess. Nathan and Daly head out on the raft and things are going pretty well until the raft starts falling apart and they need to swim back to shore, except they're caught in the current. Oh my God, what are they gonna do? They're going to be swept out past the island, except the fact that it's very obvious that they're only filming like 20 feet away from the beach. I mean, look at this. They are swimming among crusted waves. And I used to live in Rhode Island, also known as the Ocean State. So I've spent a lot of time around the beach and things need to be shallow enough for crusted waves to happen, which is why crested waves usually only happen near the shore or near sandbanks, not out in the ocean. So they're clearly like not that far away from the beach and they're clearly not gonna die, but they're acting like they are. I don't know why they didn't go farther out into the ocean to film this part, but yeah, Daly and Nathan barely make it back to the shore with their lives. Day 22, Nathan and Daly are kind of getting closer together because of their near-death experience, except Nathan ends up being so weird about it that he totally fumbles the ball, turns Daly off. She doesn't want anything to do with him and how weird he is acting.
This adventure has really brought us together.
Yeah, that's true. You kissed me.
I'm sorry if I gave you the wrong impression.
At the same time, Melissa is starting to feel kind of threatened by Jackson and Taylor growing closer together as friends. And everybody knows that boys and girls can't be friends, so there must be something going on between them. And at this point, Abby just like randomly shows up on the beach. She is back now, and we get a little flashback of what has been going on with her for the past, like, I don't know, week and a half or so. And honestly, it's just a lot of hiking. Most of it is just her going through really... Wait a minute. Is this the same island that they filmed Jurassic Park on? I don't know. I feel like I say that anytime I see a beautiful island that is covered in vegetation and forest, as I'm like, is that where they filmed Jurassic Park? Either way, Abby didn't find anything. She just hiked out in the woods for quite a few days and then had some rocks dropped on her, and now she's back. Except she's like so traumatized by being out in the forest that she starts creating a whole bunch of problems that were not there, and like starts insisting that for some reason they're like on the verge of death and they're not surviving and everybody's going to die soon.
You have no idea how bad it's gonna get. Have fun playing government. Come to me when you get hungry.
Abby's actually just mad that Lex won't kill a chicken that he found and is acting like they are like about to die if they don't kill this chicken, even though it is established that they have several different types of food sources here. And also the chicken is like laying eggs and stuff like that. So the entire time the camp was dissolving through this argument about whether to kill this chicken or not, I was just like, holy crap. If you guys want to kill a chicken so bad, why don't you go out and find another one? Like where there's one, there has to be more. So just go and find another chicken and kill that one instead. We don't need to be arguing over this. This is so stupid. For real, everybody was just chilling before this until Abby showed up. Like she just came off of The Walking Dead and starts like acting as though everybody is going to perish immediately.
You can't create civilization in a jungle.
Yeah, Abby, I think there might be a couple of civilizations out there that are gonna disagree with you on that one. Day 23.
Day 23! Give it up for Day!
Everybody is reevaluating their priorities and what exactly they want out of being here on the island and what their main focus for being on the island is. And the way that they show this is through very long flashbacks that show the entire show that we have just watched. There's copywritten music playing now, but I still wanted to show you guys this clip, but I don't want YouTube to get mad at me, so instead I'll sing instead of copywritten music playing, blah, 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 blah. For some reason, even though everybody was about democracy and voting and stuff like that a few days ago, they are suddenly trying to make it seem as though this whole entire voting thing was just Daly's idea and that she somehow forced them into doing this and that democracy and voting was terrible. This was literally the only way that they could have expressed opinions and agreed on anything and gotten anything done. So I don't understand why suddenly everybody is being like, Daly, you're the worst. You made us do all this stuff. Nobody wanted to do this.
I know it's not. It's our call. All of us. We all decide. That's what we agreed on, right?
No, that's what you forced on us.
After gaslighting the shit out of Daly, the group splits in two, in which Abby, Melissa, Jackson, and Eric all decide to head down the beach in order to try and find some way to get off of the island. And this is where season 2 ends. Season 3 starts off right there and is only 4 episodes long and is all called Hotel Tango, so it's like a 4-part episode season, I guess. Lex is super pissed that the group broke up and tells Daly that everything is all her fault, and Daly responds to her hurt feelings in the way that any teenage girl is going to respond, by doing something dramatic with her hair. Lex runs away, but is brought back by Taylor, and the away gang, despite having only started off a few hours before, is already out of food and water. How are you guys already out of this stuff? Like, you guys are carrying 4 giant packs with you. Did nobody think to bring any food or water along the way? You already need to go out and find some? Stupid. While sitting on the beach, Taylor actually spots a ship that is out on the horizon. But because they have made absolutely no contingency plan for this type of situation. They are unable to flag it down and the boat disappears. Again, I don't know why they spent the entire show arguing over survival versus getting off the island. Why couldn't we have been working on this, both of it, the entire time? Like, we could have had one group who was getting together all of the stuff that we need for survival now, while another group was coming up with like signal fires and like all sorts of stuff. We haven't been doing that. Why haven't we been doing that? My only explanation is that it would have been too difficult for the Discovery Kids writers to have two lackluster plot lines instead of just one, so. Day 25, Nathan builds an SOS signal fire and dumps the last of the jet fuel on it so that it'll be ready to go the second they see another ship. And hey man, I'm not saying that this is a bad idea, but maybe you want to wait a minute before tossing that gasoline around everywhere. I mean, it took you guys a month to be able to see this boat. You think that if you pour in this gasoline on here now, that it'll be ready in another month when you finally see another? No, it's not. You chill out, man. Also, why is everybody's clothes so clean and wrinkle-free? It has been 25 days. You guys should be looking somewhat rumpled. Oh ho ho, things look slightly different. Sorry, I had to stop filming for a minute so I could let my camera recharge and get its battery back so that we could finish everything off. I believe we were on day 26, which is when Eric, you know, Mr. Independence, Mr. Self-Efficient, Mr. Alpha Male, Beta. Sorry about that. Eric decides to go for a swim in the ocean right after eating a meal. And of course, he gets a cramp because, I don't know, what is this, like a Lemony Snicket novel or something like that? But Melissa has to run in and save his ass. And because he's been spewing all of this independent stuff and being like, oh no, everybody should do everything 100% by himself, which doesn't make any sense. Like, he literally thinks that everybody should create their own fire and do all of their own hunting and gather their own water. So what, you want like a dozen different fires for different, but like, how does that make any sense? Either way, because he's been spewing all this independent shit, Melissa's like, I'm done with this. If you are drowning again, I'm just gonna leave your ass.
From day number one, I've done nothing but bail you out of trouble. You wanna be on your own? You got it. Survival of the fittest, this is the end. From now on, you're on your own.
Meanwhile, back at camp, Daly thinks that she sees something on the horizon. So she just runs, she grabs some fire, she lights up the SOS signal, except it turns out to not be a boat. It just ends up being whales. Sorry, the animal, not the country. Back with the away gang. They have found their own chicken because, see, I told you there were other chickens that they could hunt and kill. And they end up following this chicken until they find an abandoned building. And while they're exploring it, Jackson comes across a machete, which leads him to the only possible conclusion about why a machete could be there.
Or maybe it's somebody that doesn't want to be found. Smugglers?
Suddenly, an old man pops up, and boy, oh boy, do I love this old man.
Welcome to the Hotel Tango.
Who's that?
Hey! Who wants to know? There's only room for one, you hear me? Only room for one!
It was Captain Russell, the pilot.
I wish that we had this guy around for longer. He would have been a great contrast to 10 hormonal teenagers. Sorry, 9 hormonal teenagers and 1 boss baby. The away gang finally finds Jory, and wait a minute. Are Abby and Jory lesbians? Look at the way that they're holding on to each other. Nobody stands with their arms wrapped around another person's neck like that unless you are romantically involved. Suddenly, everything that Abby was saying about feeling super connected to the people who she went into the jungle with is making a lot more sense. So it turns out that Jory, Ian, and Captain Russell were able to make it to the North Beach, and they found absolutely nothing there. There was no reason for them to go. Their whole entire expedition was basically for no reason. And while they were coming back, Ian accidentally fell through a rotten floor in an abandoned building, which is how he really hurt his leg. And apparently Captain Russell not only hit his head, but is also experiencing a reoccurring bout of malaria?
He smashed his head in the flood, then got sick. Said it's a reoccurrence of malaria or something.
I don't know where this guy got malaria for it to be reoccurring, but sure, okay. So it turns out that Captain Russell has a boat, and seeing as he is, unwell, the kids decide to steal the boat from him in order to make their own escape off the island. They decide to use Ian's illness to try and distract Captain Russell. And honestly, I love this guy so much because he's like, yeah, I might be the only adult in this situation. What do you guys want me to fucking do about it?
I think his fever's worse.
So?
And he's in pain?
Well, what do you want me to do about it?
Unfortunately, Captain Russell does get suspicious and runs back to the boat before they are able to successfully steal it, and Eric drops his fire starter in the bottom of the boat, and guess what happens next? Do I even need to say it? We all know what happens. The boat catches on fire. What did you think was gonna happen? And let me tell you, Captain Russell is not happy about this turn of events.
It was everything, everything! Do you know what it's like to lose something that means everything to you? Do you? You don't, do you? Well, you're gonna find out!
Now, we are getting into the very last episode of Flight 29 Down, and let me tell you, this episode is so much better than every other episode because in comparison with the rest of the show, it goes so fucking hard. First off, the away gang is trying to carry Ian back to camp on a homemade stretcher while being hunted down by this crazed pilot. Next, apparently, there is not one, but 2 hurricanes that are converging in the area that the island is at. This situation is so dire that these unnamed military men have to scramble recon, whatever the fuck that means.
There's going to be damage. Yeah, but where? Gotta scramble recon.
So Lex rigs together a whole entire light to battery thing in which it is a blinking light that they can set up on the beach and point out at the ocean in hopes that any passing night ships might see it and be able to come and rescue them. However, Daly thinks that it's a much better idea to turn the light up to the sky because she saw a satellite and thought that maybe the satellite would see it. Lex thinks that this is the stupidest idea ever and just completely freaks out on her.
Those satellites cover like the whole ocean. There is no way they could pick up a tiny little light. What if a ship sailed by last night? They wouldn't have seen it because this was pointed at Mars. Unbelievable.
At this point, Captain Russell shows up at the camp, and this is where the vibes totally change.
Hey, did you ever get me that latte?
What?
Sorry, bad joke.
She was so beautiful. She was so beautiful.
You should have taken better care of her. You should have taken better care of her!
Just one sec.
When I was watching this, there was a real moment in which I stopped and was like, wait a minute, is this guy gonna like murder all of these children? The way that Taylor screams Nathan's name, it just gives off such strong horror movie vibes that I genuinely was questioning where their show was going. So Captain Russell grabs some fire and he threatens to burn the entire camp down as revenge for ruining his baby, his plane. But Jackson is able to jump in and stop him with just one single hand. This crazy man does not fight back at all, despite the fact that he is supposed to be crazy. He keeps oscillating back and forth between being reasonable and being crazy. It's very confusing, gives me whiplash. Suddenly, everybody hears an engine and runs out onto the beach, in which they see a plane flying overhead that then lands and comes to start to rescue them because holy shit, Daly's idea actually worked.
Incredible.
I used a flasher from the light in the wing.
You know, the weather recon plane picked it right up.
And not only that, it somehow only took 30 minutes for these military men to come and pick them up. Can you imagine if the military had decided to delay the rescue until after the double hurricane was over and they just came back to find Captain Russell standing over the bodies of 10 mutilated teenage corpses? Sorry, 9 mutilated teenage corpses and 1 boss baby corpse. Since they're rescued, Captain Russell just isn't crazy anymore, I guess. His malaria's just gone away and he's fine now.
You okay?
Yeah. Listen. I'm really sorry. Hey, Jackson, please. I want to help. Really. Let me. Thanks.
And while they're packing up all of their stuff in order to leave the island, for some reason, Melissa asks Jackson if Jackson is his first name or his last name. I'm sorry, you spent an entire month on an island in extremely close quarters to this boy. And this is the first... This seems like a season 1 question, not a 5 minutes until the end question. Even more mind-boggling than Melissa asking Jackson what his name is despite having a massive crush on him is that Jackson reveals that Jackson isn't his first name, it's his last name, and his real first name is Cody. I'm sorry, Cody? Cody. Cody? Really? Cody? You might have well have named him Kyle or something like that. Jeez Louise. And before the show officially ends, before they get into the rescue boat and they leave, they decide that the best way to have closure from what happened on the island is to have everybody leave their video diaries in a little time capsule and to bury it somewhere on the island for someone in the future to find. Hey, remember when you guys found that time capsule and you all really wished that there was toilet paper in there? Yeah, maybe you should bury some of that stuff for whoever happens to be trapped on the island in the future, because I'm pretty sure they're not going to care about your stupid ass videos. And that is the story of Flight 29 Down, the much, much, much milder version of Lost. What did you guys think about this show? Do you remember this show? I'm kind of mad that they decided to end it with gaslighting and shitting all over Daly when she was realistically the only person keeping everybody alive. She was the only person keeping track of food and water and making sure that things got done so that their safety was assured. Like, I can't believe that they ended the show with trying to make it out to seem like Daly was the villain or something. And I did really enjoy this show. Was it the best thing that I have ever seen? No. Were there enjoyable parts to it? Yes. I mean, like, not the acting or the writing or the editing or any of the characterization. But we did get to see Corbin Bleu wear a skirt, and that was pretty great. So, hey, it can't be all bad, right? Anyway, if you made it to the end of this video, thank you so much for hanging out with me. If you like this video, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe for more like it. But besides that, make sure that you stay safe and have a fantastic day. Bye.